I would now like to call on His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, to give some remarks. You're welcome, Your Excellency.
His Excellency William Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, the Chairperson of the African Union, President of Mauritania, and their Excellencies, the heads of state and government. This is a topic I can speak on for the whole day. I'm therefore glad we have had this meeting where the presidents of Africa meet with some of the Western leaders. The crisis which is in Africa today is because of philosophical, ideological, strategic, economic mistakes, which we have been talking about since the 1960s. This is not an accident. When you see the crisis in many of the African countries, the collapse of states, we predicted this in the 1960s. Philosophical, ideological, strategic mistakes. I don't have time to amplify each one, but I was very happy to hear the President of the World Bank talking about prosperity instead of profiteering. These were his own words. That's what I picked. This has been the problem. Aid has been for profiteering. This has been the problem. Now, the World Bank people and other groups have been talking of sustainable development. Even in your documents, I have seen those words there. Sustainable development. I am now going to be 80 years old. I have never seen sustainable pregnancy. That a woman is pregnant this year, the pregnancy continues next year, 3 years, 4 years, it never happens. In life, pregnancy develops sustainably within the womb of the woman. Quantitatively, the baby is growing bigger and bigger. But at some stage, quantitative growth must be transformed into qualitative change. The pregnancy must become a baby. If the pregnancy remains pregnancy, the fetus will die. So therefore, I would even ask you to change those words in your documents. Africa does not need sustainable what? You could call it sustainable underdevelopment. Africa needs socio-economic transformation. The pregnancy must become a baby. The baby must grow and become a teenager. The teenager must grow. That's what happens in life. You cannot have quantitative growth and you think you are doing anything. The main reason why there is no growth is because the growth factors are not funded. They are not even understood. What are the growth factors? We now talk of private sector-led growth. Yes, but for the private sector to grow, what does it need? It needs low costs of production. Ministers of Finance, low costs of production. And what are the low costs of production? Number one, transport. You must have low transport costs. Where do low transport costs come from? From the railway. If you don't fund the railway, how will you get low transport costs? Wonderful people, Banco Mundial, IMF, all of this. Where will low cost of production come from if you don't have a railway? I have been here for the last 64 years. I've been watching as a student leader, as a freedom fighter, now as the leader of a country. How many railways have been constructed or funded in Africa? The few that have been was by China, the Tanzania Railway to Zambia, and recently, China, another one here in Kenya, and then Tanzania on their own, they are building a railway line. So, if you are talking of helping Africa, the railway, I don't want to be involved in any other words, no, please. The railway. Because if you fund the railway, you will have low cost of transport, and you can produce products which are cheap, which can be bought in the world. So you audit how much funding, all these billions you are talking about, how much of it has gone to the railway. Audit it. The second cost pusher is electricity. If you don't find electricity and you talk about sustainable development, what are you talking about? Private sector-led growth. Maneno tu. Electricity, we must have low-cost electricity, not exceeding 5 cents per kilowatt hour. That's what I insist on in Uganda. I'm tired of all these stories. These neo-colonial civil servants who have been holding us back, I have put my foot down, say, I don't want to hear those stories. And Uganda is developing, and it will develop, because I don't entertain that nonsense anymore. Borrowing for what? Capacity building. Imagine. Seminars, they call you in a hotel, you eat chapati, you eat mandazi. They say that is capacity building. Capacity building should be on the ground, not just seminars. So, the second point, Excellence, is electricity. The third one, those people who talk about private sector-led growth. I have been trying to borrow money for our UDB, Uganda Development Bank, a bank which funds manufacturers. No, I don't get support for that. Instead, they want me to go, my people to go to commercial banks. But commercial banks cannot give, no, those commercial banks are to encourage imports. Because the only person who can borrow money and pay it back from a commercial bank is a trader who goes to China, goes to where, Dubai, brings products, sells them quickly, and pays back. So, if you are serious, I needed to hear about the low-cost funding for manufacturing. Not for stories, not for what, no, manufacturing. How about funding for irrigation? Because if you want to stabilize agriculture, a country like Uganda is very rich, we have got everything. But still sometimes we get some erraticness in the rain. So in order to stabilize, I've been trying to look for a loan for irrigation. I can't easily get it. Very difficult to get. A loan for seminars, very quick. The civil servants, what? But a loan for irrigation, you don't see. Now, finally, the loan for, I don't know the situation in other African countries, and I don't have time to talk for a long, I don't have opportunity to talk for long. But Uganda is a very rich country. But one of the problems we are having was that our people were outside the money economy. They were in what they call subsistence sector. They just produce for eating, produce for eating. Wanashughulikia tumbo tu. So I was looking for money. Please give me money to give coffee seedlings to these fellows who are just producing for the stomach, so that they can produce for the stomach, but also produce for the pocket, so that they join the money economy. You cannot imagine that by 2013, a few years ago, 68% of the homesteads in Uganda were still in the subsistence sector, in the non-money economy. You audit your countries. What is the situation? What is the percentage of the people? So I had now to use my own money because I couldn't borrow money from anybody. The loans are for capacity building, for, I don't know, sometimes they give for ICT, but ICT is a communication system, mainly. What are you going to communicate on that communication? How are you? Good morning. And you think that is communication. Why don't you have ICT linked with agriculture, linked with industry? Oh, now the digital. Are you eating computers? Have I seen anybody eating computers? Just running up and down, maneno tu. So I was insisting that all these Ugandans must be in the money economy. 2013, not long ago, 68% of Ugandans were outside the money economy because Uganda is a very rich country. A fool can survive there. In other countries, fools die. But in Uganda, fools can thrive there. They just eat. He stays with his brothers. He eats. He goes from there to the sister. He eats. He's not earning anything, but he's eating. So we said, no, everybody must be involved in the money economy. We couldn't get any support for that. But we funded it ourselves. Each year, we spend about $300 million of our own to make these villagers join the money economy by producing for the stomach, but also for the pocket. And from 2013, I was now told that for the first time, 61% of the people are in the money economy of the homesteads. It is only 39% that are still out. You imagine those are still there, just eating, no money. So therefore, this meeting is, then you get your neo-colonial civil servants. They talk of import support. Imagine there is money for import support. Import support. The governor writes to me, reports, we have got import cover for so many months. But I don't want to import, I want to export. Why don't you tell me about import substitution and export promotion? Instead, you are telling me of import support. So money is available for to become more dependent. So I'm very glad to hear what now finally, the KICC, which we told our people about in the 1960s, we told them, part of the wars we fought in Uganda, we had to get rid of the neo-colonial groups which were there, which were stopping us from thinking. We had to get rid of them by force. But one of the problems was Africa producing raw materials. Matière primaire, they call it in French, matière primaire. Raw materials. Imagine coffee. The global value of coffee is $460 billion. All the coffee producing countries of the world, Brazil, us, all this, we only get 25 billion of that. Out of the 460 billion, the coffee producing countries get 25 billion. And Africa gets only 2.5 billion. 900 million of that comes to Uganda because Uganda produces a lot of coffee. A country like Germany, which has no coffee, earns $65 billion from coffee. So this I sell a kilo of coffee, good grade coffee, $2.5. Somebody in London will get $241 from that 1 kilo. Okay, there are other costs on the way. I don't want to, because he's the owner of a restaurant and so on. But coffee roasting, coffee grinding, coffee packing must happen here in Africa. Must happen at source. The shirt I'm putting on is Ugandan cotton. I don't put on foreign clothes. It's only the trousers I'm putting on because I can't go naked. Because they have not solved that problem for me. So, if you look at cotton, how many job levels are there? Job levels. You grow the cotton. Okay, that one we do. Those jobs we do. We gene the cotton. kutoa mbegu, remove the seeds. That one we do here, and we end there. When you hear all these countries which have got crisis, Burkina Faso, I don't know what, Mali, all of them are cotton growing countries. But how much textiles are they producing? They're importing textiles, I don't know from where. So now if you end at level 2, ginning, removing the seeds, then you take the pamba, you take the cotton, to cleverer people who are clever. Watu wenye akili wako huko, sisi hapo tutajiita vipi? Kama mtu anakuzidi akili wewe unasema wewe nani? So they take the cotton, they spinning, more money, more jobs for their children. They weave, more money, more jobs for their children. They put the print, more money, more jobs for their children. I looked at the figures. Uganda consumes 276 million meters of textiles each year. And that wonderful country of yours spends $880 million on clothes. Some of them dead people's clothes from Europe. When people die, their clothes, they are sent to you people, to Africa. And we spend 800, all the money we earn from coffee goes back to bring dead people's clothes. But we have got one factory there called Nitil. It produces 25 million liters, million meters. So in order to clothe our people in Uganda without importing, we need about 11 factories like the one of Nitil. And they would employ about 20,000 people. So and we would save $880 million, which we are just giving to other people. So this IDA, what did you say about the modern slavery of the Africans of producing raw materials? In one of our documents in Addis Ababa, we had talked of Africa producing what it does not consume and consuming what it does not produce. They had put that as a summary in one of the documents of the African Union. We must get rid of the production of raw. I banned the export of minerals from Uganda and process. I banned them. Piga marufuku. Then the agents were going in the corridors, what Mufanyi, no mineral will come from Uganda if it's not processed. You wait until I go away, you can steal the minerals, but not now. I banned this export of unprocessed minerals in 2012. My young brother, His Excellency Ruto, I forgave him and gave him some little iron ore for, I think, 2 or 3 years, because I've got a lot of iron ore, one of the best in the world. I told him, His Excellency Ruto's man, Muhindi wa hapa Kenya, you come and build the steel factory in Uganda at the iron ore. Oh, yeah. I've already built in Mombasa. So I said, okay, because of my young friend, I give you some iron ore for 2 or 3 years. But come and put the factory here. Now you can imagine akili ya watu wenu, my civil servants. An Indian wanted to take that iron ore to India, imagine. Iron ore in Runyankore, in our language, is called obtare, but it is soil, black soil. If you see it, it is soil. To take that to India and do what? Pay your wonderful people $47 per ton. Our iron ore is the purest in the world. It is 70% pure. So you need like 1.5 tons to make a ton of steel. Now, a ton of steel costs $700. Somebody gives you $47 on your wealth, the wealth of your people, and he gets $700 from it. And all the jobs, your children have no jobs. Watoto wa Wahindi wanafanya wamepata kazi. I can't be part of that treachery. So I ban, there will be no export of unprocessed minerals from Uganda. So there's no business. What do you mean there's no business? So when I banned them, they are flocking in now. They have opened 7 gold refineries. 7 gold refineries, they are there. Because I banned. The other day I was opening a tin refinery. You can imagine this tin, and Sulu Samia know where we were, the power station, both sides, the Uganda side and the Tanzanian side. That is all tin. But all this time, imagine, since the British were here, they were taking, walikuwa wanachukua mawe tu, stones, because tin in nature is a stone, looks like a stone. So they take that. And they give my people $11 per kilo. And they take it to cleverer people. For the cleverer people, they get $32. My people got 11, those people get $32. And all the jobs. So when I was opening the factory, I was asking the refinery, I was asking them, this boy who opened the factory is a Canadian. I was asking them, huyu Mkanada ameleta umeme wake? Has this Canadian brought his own electricity? No. Anatumia umeme wa kwetu. Ameleta maji yake ya factory? No. Anatumia maji yetu. Internet anatumia ya nani? Ya kwetu. So out of the $32, much of that money will remain in Uganda. Pay for the raw material, pay for the electricity, pay for the water, all that remains in Uganda. So what does, first of all, my African brothers and sisters say about this hemorrhage of Africa? Hemorrhage. Echikurukuto, we call it in Uganda. This hemorrhage must stop. The crisis you see in these countries is because of stagnation of the last 60 years since independence. The population is increasing, the economies are not increasing. What do you expect? So with these few words, Your Excellencies, what do I say? Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, President Yoweri Museveni. May I call upon His Excellency, Professor Faustin Archange Touadéra, President of the Central African Republic, to please come and give some remarks. Bienvenue.
Excellence, Dr. William Samuel Ruto, président de la République du Kenya, très chers frères, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur le Président du groupe de la Banque mondiale, distinguées personnalités, Mesdames et Messieurs, permettez-moi, à l'entame de mes propos, d'adresser à notre frère, Son Excellence Dr. William Samuel Ruto, président de la République du Kenya,
President of the Republic of Kenya and the Kenyan people, I'd like to express my deepest feelings and express
suite aux pluies torrentielles
Central African Republic following the floods that have led to the tragic disappearance of many people and also a lot of destruction in our sister country. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I take to the stage now, representing my country, the Central African Republic. This occasion of this summit or heads of state summit, summit of the heads of state and government in the ambitious reconstitution of resources of the IDA21 for Africa. Allow me to also express our deep gratitude towards my brother, Dr. William Samoei Ruto and the Kenyan people for the organization, the successful organization of this summit, and also the welcome, the brotherly welcome, a very warm, which I have known since our arrival in this really dynamic town of Nairobi. I'd also like to thank Ajay Banga, the president of the World Bank Group, for his full participation in this very important summit, for his leadership, and also on reconstitution of resources, IDA21. It is also the moment to express my gratitude to the World Bank for the multifaceted approach that we have been given. I'd also like to thank the entire group of funders in IDA, because it is thanks to their contribution this institution has the necessary to help the most poor countries on this planet to be able to move to some place. So also the African Union, that it is in Africa that we also find a number of natural resources and strategic minerals, and we find that some of these countries are some of the most impoverished of these countries, and the Central African Republic has had a feeling of this level of poverty that we are talking about in this IDA21. So we talk about 0.8 percentage growth, which means that a child who was born before the pandemic will only realize 28% of his potential if he has received any education and other services. In 2021, about a larger percentage had achieved basic sanitation, but we also had 80% who had no access to electricity or internet. 2017, according to the United Nations. So in April of 2024, so for 40% of Central Africans would not eat a food. So we are told that there are millions of people, that is about 46% of the population, are living in extreme vulnerability in this 2024, and which needs urgent humanitarian action. Now, in such a very difficult national context, exacerbated by the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic and also tensions at international level, the contributions of the World Group to fight against poverty and also the promotion of socioeconomic development are essential, if not vital.
En effet, l'IDA 2020 a déjà
In fact,
alloué
IDA21 had
367 millions de dollars,
already about
dont 243 millions engagés,
$370 million,
démontrant ainsi son
already
importance
show
vitale dans notre
importance
quête pour le progrès et
in
la
our
réduction de la pauvreté.
quest for reducing
En effet,
poverty.
ces financements ont
So
permis
this kind
la
of finance
construction d'un parc solaire de
for
25
the
mégawatts
construction of a solar
près de la
park
capitale Bangui
near the
pour
capital in
fournir
Bangui
l'électricité à
to
250
supply
000
electricity
habitants,
to
doublant ainsi la capacité nationale.
60
Le
inhabitants,
projet de fourniture de
60,000
services de soutien
inhabitants. So
aux
we appreciate
communautés touchées par
support
les déplacements a soutenu
communities
les
that
ménages
are
vulnérables avec des
displaced,
transferts
also
monétaires
reaching out
trimestriels
to vulnerable
de
households.
$40
And
américains,
when you're
soit
talking
25
about
000 francs CFA, leur
$40,000
permettant d'exercer des activités
for
génératrices
each
de
person
revenus
allows us to
et
come up,
d'investir dans la
support them
santé
to come
et
up with
l'éducation.
income generating activities and continue
Le
with
projet de
education.
du système de
The
santé
project, the support
a permis
project
d'offrir
in the health
des
sector
soins
allowed us
médicaux
to
gratuits à plus
open
d'1 million de personnes
clinics that are
avec
open to
302
millions or a million people
582 visites
with
prénatales
about
pour les femmes enceintes, une assistance
362,000
médicale,
prenatal visits,
psychosociale et
and
socio-économique
where people can
pour les
also receive
victimes de violences
psychosocial
basées sur le genre,
support, especially
l'enceinte
where
et
there
victimes
has been
d'infidélité,
gender-based
touchant
violence
2
in the districts.
982
That also
personnes.
reached
Notons que notre portefeuille actuel financé par l'État,
292,000.
ce chiffre à
Now, these
1132
figures
millions
are
de dollars américains et couvre
142
19 projets
million
qui sont en
American
cours
dollars that
d'exécution,
have been put in
parmi
projects,
lesquels 16
amongst
projets
which
nationaux et
16
3 projets
national
régionaux.
projects and
Le taux de
at regional
décaissement
level.
cumulé
So
du portefeuille hors projets
cumulatively,
régionaux
so
est de 48%.
we are talking about a reach of
Nous réitérons les vœux pour
48%.
que
We'd like
les
to
projets en cours de
reiterate our
préparation
wish
soient
that these
rapidement
projects
approuvés
that are
pour
still in the
permettre
pipeline
d'améliorer le
be
bien-être de tous nos
fast-tracked to
compatriotes.
also help us reach
Comme vous
a
le
wider group
constatez,
of the
les
population.
financements IDA
Like it was
contribuent à
noted, IDA
améliorer les conditions de
financing
vie des
has
populations
contributed to
qui
improve
peuvent
on the
sortir de cette
livelihoods in the
blessure de
towns
conflits
and
et
also
du
to
sous-développement. Il nous faut
mitigate
dès
the
maintenant
effects of
consolider ces
conflicts
actions,
and underdevelopment.
renforcer les actions
So
humanitaires
we are
et
talking
alimentaires
of strengthening,
qui restent sous-financées.
strengthening of
En même temps, nous
actions
engager
and also
pleinement
projects,
dans la voie du développement durable.
and also as we look
Le
at
plan
more
national de
of the
développement 2024
sustainable
2028
projects.
en cours
So
de
when we are talking
finalisation
about 2024,
capitalise sur le
2028,
plan de
we
relèvement
are
et de consolidation de la
capitalizing on
paix
the plan to consolidate
2017-2023, l'accord politique pour la paix et la
2017-2023
réconciliation
program
avec la
that had been
Centrafricaine,
improved on
la
in
feuille
the
de route
Central
conjointe de
African
Luanda et les
Republic,
recommandations
and
du dialogue
also
de paix.
the route map that Rwanda
Avec
provided.
l'amélioration de
We
la
have looked at
situation
it with the
sécuritaire,
improvement in the
le nouveau
security
PND nous
situation.
permettra de
The
passer
new
de
program
l'humanitaire au
allows us
développement
to move from
pour
humanitarian
accélérer la
actions to
croissance économique,
development
créer
and
des
also
emplois,
accelerate
réduire
the
la pauvreté
economic
et
growth,
améliorer le
reduce
bien-être de nos
poverty, and
populations
also improve on the
majoritairement jeunes.
well-being of our population, which
Notre
is
vision
young.
à
Our
l'horizon
vision
2028
as we look at
est de construire une
2028
République
is to
centrafricaine
construct,
prospère,
we have a
disposant d'un
prosperous Central
capital humain de
African Republic
qualité
which
et
has
des infrastructures
quality
résilientes
human
et
capital
durables,
that is
fondées sur une
resilient
État de
and
droit plus
also
inclusif,
sustainable, and
axé sur
where
les
to have
principes
projects that
de
are
la bonne
sustained, that
gouvernance.
inclusive,
À cet égard,
and are open to
l'IDA
governance.
21 apparaît
So
comme une
IDA
opportunité
21 to us
historique
looks like an
pour
historic
notre croissance
opportunity
et
for
notre
our
développement.
growth and our development.
Pour saisir les opportunités
In order to make
potentielles
use
qui
of the
peuvent
potential
offrir
opportunities that
la
could
mise en
open
œuvre
up
du PND,
and also the
nos priorités
implementation of the
consistent à
PND,
investir
our
davantage dans le
priorities
capital humain,
consist of
les infrastructures
investing
essentielles
in
qui sont
human
l'électricité, les routes,
and also
la
put up roads,
digitalisation, l'agriculture intelligente,
digitalization, and
pour
also
face au changement
intelligence,
climatique
and also
et des
other
chocs
projects that
qui
also
creusent davantage
take into account
l'écart
climate
entre les pays
changes
fragiles
and also
et les pays
reduce the
avancés et la révolution énergétique. Ceci en retour peut contribuer à relever un grand nombre de défis auxquels mon pays est confronté. Pour y parvenir, la République centrafricaine aura besoin de ressources concessionnelles, d'où notre appel aux pays donateurs pour une reconstruction massive de IDA 21, à l'exemple de IDA 19 et IDA 20. Dans un contexte de raréfaction des ressources financières à l'international et des lenteurs observées dans l'exécution des compensations de la finance climat en faveur des pays particulièrement vulnérables. Je saisis donc cette occasion pour saluer la simplification des procédures de l'IDA, qui vise à rendre les options de financement plus simples, plus accessibles et plus rapides, afin d'avoir un meilleur impact à plus grande échelle et à plus grande vitesse.
At a greater speed. I'd like to end and reminding us that IDA is a partnership between donor pays and the recipient countries, and help the receiving states to reach, be able to have sustainable growth as they look at having a more prosperous future. It is the wish that I would have for my country and for other countries that are also benefiting from IDA who are represented here. So we are looking at our level of indebtedness and the conditions of the capital markets. IDA21 remains the credible factor that we have when we look at concessionary rates for a country like mine, which has just come out fragile state, and also to help us add value to our human capital. I'd like to ask all the traditional funders and also the potential new funders to also make themselves useful, and you contribute massively to the 21st reconstitution of resources of the International Development Association, IDA21, to have a more equitable and just country. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Excellence. I would now like to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of the Comoros, to the stage. You're welcome, Your Excellency.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président Ruto, que j'appelle Ahmad Abako, un cher frère.
Ahmad Abako, a dear brother. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of government and state, Your Excellency, Monsieur Ahmad Ghazouani, the President of the Conference of the African and the President. Your Excellency Ajay Bango, the President of the World Bank Group, ladies and gentlemen, the heads of international institutions, distinguished guests, ladies and ladies, greetings to all. I'd like to first of all express on behalf of my delegation and on my own my gratitude to our brother, the President Ruto, for the perfect organization of this summit, and also to our brothers and sisters in Kenya for their warm hospitality and in this beautiful town of Nairobi. As we meet for this crucial summit in order to deliberate on the question of reconstituting the resources under IDA21, I'd like to first of all to underline that Africa finds itself today in a crisis, unprecedented crisis. So when we are looking, there are a number of obstacles, there are economic disparities, environmental degradation, security and health crises, and inequalities in education. However, in the midst of all these problems comes an opportunity that is exceptional for collective action and also for transformative change. Our continent is, in effect, has a lot of potential resources to help us. So when we talk about very important human resource. So to be able to play its role in the world economy, Africa needs big investment in a number of development areas. Ladies and gentlemen who are here, so IDA has to be an ally that in our part we're heading to toward sustainable development. It is unique in the world where a dollar from the developing countries is also supported by $4 for the financing of development projects. As we engage, this is the trajectory of the IDA21. It is important, it is imperative. We also recognize the indispensable role that this institution has played in the promotion of inclusive growth and also prosperity in Africa. As such, the $23 billion of reconstitution in IDA 2020 allowed the institution to mobilize $93 billion for financement for the member countries, of which 20% have been engagements that are destined to reach African countries. So we can agree with me that is in a very difficult context of access to financial markets. The IDA instrument needs to be honored, thanked, and also strengthened by our contribution that is very important as partners. Also, we also express our deepest gratitude to all our partners, first of whom is the World Bank. So thanking it for its robust and continued engagement and support that is appropriate to help us do away with the obstacles to development that our countries face. So this robust reconstitution of IDA comes from the simple need that is financial and also incarnates a moral imperative and also underlies the to ensure that no one is left behind in our quest to be more ready for the African countries as such. And IDA 21, that's ambitious, should give priority to efforts to invest in development areas such as agriculture, energy, infrastructure, and the climatic adaptation before supporting creation of work of quality workforce of young people and underprivileged groups. So this would be from IDA18, we have been able to get substantial concessionary funds going to the private sector that to help people get out of poverty by creating sustainable employment, economic transformation, and mobilizing resources at national level. Since its creation, so $4 billion of funds have allowed more than $20 billion of investment to the private sector supported in 47 countries. This has also favored the introduction of new financial resources for development in the eligible countries, also helping to reduce in the domains of that the private sector has chosen to invest in. So I'd like to support this partnership with LEADER for having responded to us and to come up with a very strong and ambitious reconstitution of the IDA21, and that the resources are also meet the aspirations, the collective African aspiration. And in addition to the contributions of our partners, we cannot underestimate the transformative power of technology and cooperation and regional cooperation, So when towards the realization of this SDGs for our economies, allow me also to underline the importance of accept the IDA21 with as a task that we take with determination, conscious of the importance, responsibility that we have in common. So we need to come to also support this resolution as we look forward to a better future for Africa, because it is only when we have access to this that we can also achieve the Africa that we all dream about collectively. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to underline the situation that island states such as Comoros are facing. So we would also have to have a plan that also takes into the effects of change, like tsunamis, cyclones, and also floods. The situation is very alarming. So this needs a particular attention from our partners, our development partners like IDA. So as such, my country is advocating that IDA should come to look at the specific problems that island states that face as vulnerable states. They are very fragile, and also they are also touched in the environmental sector. They face a lot of food insecurity. They also have external shocks of all natures, and also this means that are dealing very specific objectives that would help us adapt to climate change. And as such, I would like, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude my proposal by a African proverb when we say that we do not handle things singularly. So if we come together to face these obstacles, I would wish us all success in our work, and I thank you all.
Merci beaucoup. If I please may invite the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo. Your Excellency, if you could use the podium. Your Excellency, if you could use this podium. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto, Your Excellency Mohamed Ghazouani, Chair of the African Union and President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, the President of the World Bank, Mr. J. Banga, ladies and gentlemen, I thank the dynamic President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency William Ruto, for the invitation to speak at the summit of the International Development Association, IDA, and for the hospitality of the Kenyan government. This gathering serves as a platform for collaboration and a catalyst for transformative change. As we convene here, we're tasked with a great responsibility to articulate the case for an ambitious and robust 21st replenishment of the IDA, one that will pave the way for sustainable development and prosperity, not only for the African continent, but also for all nations in need. The challenges we face in the 21st century are immense and multifaceted. From the continuing effects of poverty and inequality to the urgent threats posed by climate change and pandemics, our world is in need of bold and innovative solutions. Yet amidst these challenges lies an opportunity to redefine our approach to development, to reimagine our priorities, and to forge a path towards a more equitable and sustainable future. The IDA, with its long-standing commitment to poverty eradication and inclusive growth, stands as a testament to the power of international cooperation. Over the years, it has played a pivotal role in lifting millions out of poverty, expanding access to education and healthcare, and building resilient communities. However, as we look ahead, we must acknowledge that our work is very far from finished. Millions still live in poverty. Millions still lack access to basic services, and millions suffer from the effects of environmental degradation and climate change. Excellencies, all of us are aware, for example, of the enormous infrastructure challenge confronting Africa. The African Development Bank, AFDB, estimates Africa's infrastructure needs at between 130 to 170 billion United States dollars annually, with a financing gap of between 68 billion and 180 billion dollars annually. The infrastructure gap has a negative impact on our competitiveness. It constrains our development, stifles business growth, trade, investment, and service delivery, as well as the overall progress towards inclusive and sustainable development. Mobilizing finance and investment remains central to Africa's development needs and attaining the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Our biggest challenge is not a scarcity of financing, but overcoming a global economic system that has not allocated sufficient long-term resources to support Africa's economic transformation. That is why boosting the resources of the IDA, whose ability to generate concessional financing represents an effective way to respond to the obstacles that African countries encounter in the present global system, is so critical for the prospects of Africa's development. With the burgeoning population, our challenges hinge on our ability to provide reliable electricity, affordable and decent housing, improved transportation networks, education, and health infrastructure. Without this, we would be staring down again the possibility of a lost decade, characterized by suboptimal GDP growth. Excellencies, more than half of African countries are debt distressed. Ghana is currently going through the restructuring of her debts under the G20 Common Framework, which we all know is a slow process and needs to be stepped up. At the same time, we're suffering from the increasing effects of climate change and the devastations caused by COVID-19 and other adverse global developments. Doubling IDA to provide more concessional facilities to our countries is of utmost importance to help us cope with these challenges. The intersection between climate and debt makes imperative the need to reform the global financial architecture in a way that delivers more resources to our countries to help address the current polycrises affecting our development and that of future generations. Therefore, the time has come for us to redouble our efforts, to recommit ourselves to the principles of solidarity and shared responsibility, and to unlock the full potential of the IDA. This replenishment presents us with a unique opportunity to mobilize resources, to leverage partnerships, and to scale up our impact. It is a chance to invest in the future, in education, in healthcare, in infrastructure, and in the resilience of our communities. But let us be clear, this is not just about funding. This is about vision, about leadership, and about political will. It is about recognizing that development cannot be achieved through aid, but requires a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of poverty and inequality. It is about empowering communities, building capacity, and fostering innovation. And it is about ensuring that no one is left behind, that the most vulnerable amongst us are given the support and opportunity they need to thrive. In conclusion, I want to state that the task before us is daunting, but the stakes are too high for us to falter. Together, we can shape a brighter future for generations to come. Together, we can build a world where every child has the opportunity to fulfill his or her potential, where every family can live in dignity and security, and where every nation can achieve sustainable development. Let us seize this moment, let us rise to the challenge, and let us make history. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Allow me to call on the President of the Federal Republic of Somalia, His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohammed. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Good morning, Your Excellencies. Your Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, President of Federal Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Mohammed Ghazwani, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and the Chairperson of African Union, Your Excellencies, fellow African leaders and heads of states, His Excellency, Your Excellency Mr. J. Banga, the President of the World Bank, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. As an opening, it is an honor and privilege to participate in this great occasion of the discussion of the African leaders on the future of financing of our common development agenda with the President of the World Bank, his senior leadership team, and donors. Instead of well-replenished IDA21 means more opportunity for investment, job creation, economic growth, and effective response to the devastating global shocks like the climate change, which hampers all our progress despite our minimal contribution as a continent. Essentially, in this age of increasing global uncertainty, socio-economic, political, and security risks like the Red Sea crisis, as well as the enormous development financing need, we must ensure IDA21 becomes the main vehicle to support sustainable development. Without this, almost all developing low-income nations will struggle to deliver progressive changes from the offset. I wanted to thank the government and the Republic of Kenya and His Excellency President William Ruto for hosting this critical meeting on IDA21 replenishment and for bringing us together. I also wanted to recognize the visionary leadership of His Excellency Ajay Bang, the President of the World Bank Group, who has demonstrated that he is firmly committed to leading a responsive bank that delivers results through the evolution roadmap. It is encouraging that the World Bank is listening, learning, innovating, and acting to provide tailored context-specific support for our most urgent priorities to spark growth in Africa. Somalia and IDA for Somalia. IDA is a major lifeline that we are relying on enabling our ambitious national transformation agenda in these hopeful and post-debt relief priorities. IDA's impact on Somalia are enormous and include core institutional and system building, culminating in the achievement of heavily indebted poor countries have a completion point in December 2023. Up to 20% of the Somali population have benefited from the World Bank funded activities in Somalia since 2018. Approximately 69% of these beneficiaries were poor people living with small children and were affected by the drought, floods, and a locust infection in many parts of Somalia. Support to the rehabilitation of access roads and climate resistant infrastructure in many parts of Somalia and many municipalities in corners of Somalia bring various benefits to millions of people, including internally displaced people, IDPs, that had migrated to urban areas due to security, natural disasters, events. Provision of effective livelihoods and life-saving assistance to our citizens throughout the triple crisis of climate shocks, locust infestation, and COVID-19 pandemic. Essentially, IDA in Somalia has meant more vulnerable people out of extreme poverty, more social protection, and women and children are focused on supporting government institutions by helping those vulnerable groups. Despite our successful decade, long economic reforms to achieve debt relief throughout the highly indebted poor countries initiative, HIBIC, we remain among most fragile states in the African continent and the world. Without doubt, Somalia has come a very long way from where we were on a decade ago in terms of macroeconomic stability and socio-economic development. We also have exciting and empowering plans to keep the reform momentum going on, to lock in the vital gains we have made and build on them for a transformative change. However, these efforts require resources. Accordingly, we require the upcoming IDA21 replenishment to be of the scale and ambition that will help shift the situation from fragility to resilience and growth in Somalia. And this can only happen through greater investment in human capital, infrastructure, social protection, job creation, increasing affordable energy access, and building resilience to the disastrous and disproportionate impact of recurrent and cyclical climate emergencies in my country through IDA 2021. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as a government, we are truly committed to build on the economic reform gains from debt relief process by the future. Further enhancing domestic revenue, mobilization and strengthening public and financial management, debt management, and deepening financial sector development in Somalia. We are cognizant that the most reliable income for the nation is what it collects from its citizens and investors to reinvest the priorities and the public service needs accordingly. With a focus on clear laws and more efficient and effective tax administration, we are steadily growing domestic revenues. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude that IDA is a tool that helps Africa to progress, and in particular Somalia, to move forward as fast as we can. Adjustments, tolerances, and flexibility is what is required in the years to come to benefit from the IDA resources. Again, I would like to thank the government and the people of Kenya for providing us this opportunity to discuss about the future of our nations in economic development. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would like to invite the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, His Excellency Dr. Julius Maada Bio.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Your Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, the African Union Chairperson and President of the Republic of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, His Excellency Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani, Your Excellencies, Heads of States and Governments, President Ajay Banga, and senior management of the World Bank Group, representatives of the United Nations, the African Union, and other regional bodies, representatives of governments, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring you very warm greetings from the government and people of Sierra Leone. I extend my deep gratitude to President William Ruto and the people of Kenya for hosting the 21st replenishment of the International Development Association Summit for Africa 2024. IDA21. I express similar appreciation to the International Development Association team and its partners for their relentless effort in accelerating the mobilization of much needed resources that will support the transformational development objectives of low-income countries, including those in our beloved continent. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is at a crossroads. Our continent faces an array of challenges unique in its history. Recovery from the devastating impact of COVID-19, rising debt and economic vulnerability, political instability, the growing disruption of climate change, often compounding underlying fragilities, and the full crisis triggered by the conflict in Ukraine. According to
the Sustainable Development Goal Report 2023, if the current trends persist, about 7% of the world's population, which is 575 million, will remain in extreme poverty, with most of them being in sub-Saharan Africa. Many governments in Africa are making huge strides to advance sustainable development and alleviate extreme poverty in their countries, in alignment with targets set out in the African Union Agenda 2063 and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. However, with 6 short years left to achieve the SDGs, most of our countries are not on track to meet the targets. Under current circumstances, a business as usual approach to Africa's development is not going to work. We need a change in our approach. We need a bolder vision that will transform Africa, reduce its vulnerability in a turbulent world, and set it firmly on a path to sustainable growth and prosperity. Our current exigencies call for decisive and collaborative actions from African governments and the international community, and reliable development partners such as the World Bank Group to usher in sustainable transformation in Africa. For IDA to remain relevant to the evolving needs of member countries, especially in Africa, it must grow and adopt responsive and innovative mechanisms to finance transformational development. Our collective aspiration to accelerate development in Africa by providing sustainable financing from IDA21 replenishment remains a critical milestone that must be achieved with resounding success. A renewed commitment to good governance, transparency, and accountability must be central to our efforts. These are the cornerstones upon which we can build resilient institutions and foster an environment conducive to investment, innovation, and economic growth. Therefore, Sierra Leone unreservedly endorses the Nairobi IDA communique and looks forward to working with recipient African nations to advocate for a mega 21st IDA replenishment. The communique reflects our vision to ensure prosperity of Africans and particularly safeguard the aspirations of Agenda 2063 and the SDGs, which aim to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that by 2030, all people enjoy peace and prosperity. Today, as we present the IDA Nairobi communique, we are optimistic that the provision of additional resources would support our vision for a climate-smart, resilient, and integrated Africa. The IDA21 resources should help our countries expand quality, sustainable, climate-smart infrastructure investment in agriculture, energy, transport, water, and sanitation, healthcare infrastructure, and other sectors. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is key to global growth, security, and ending poverty in a livable planet. Despite the many threats our nations face, there are also real opportunities on the continent. Our natural resources, youthful population, and rapid growth of African cities and the middle classes have huge potential as they are beckons for investors to search in search of new markets. If Africa is to meet the targets of SDG 8, decent work and economic growth by 2030, we must act now to transform the working age population into productive forces with more decent and inclusive jobs for the youth, especially our women. According to the International Labour Organization, ILO, over 72 million youths in Africa are not in education, training, or employment, and the majority of these are women. The IDA21 replenishment thus provides a window to increase job creation through scaling up private sector investment, increasing critical and growth sectors, promoting entrepreneurial skills, technology and innovation, and boosting female empowerment. As measured by the World Bank's Human Capital Index, assuming that a child born in sub-Saharan Africa benefits from complete education and full healthcare coverage, he or she is anticipated to realize only 40% of future productivity. The Human Capital Index, this Human Capital Index is 48% for lower income countries and 71% for higher income countries. Clearly, we have more work to do for Africa. Therefore, stronger global cooperation and a commitment to investing in African capital, a human capital, and creating a productive workforce are important ingredients in enabling developing countries to escape the trap of poverty and enhance economic growth and development. As we all strive to prioritize education and skills development, enhance quality health and well-being, and promote social protection policies and coverage, we must do so with a strong desire and will to advocate for increased resources that will make an indelible footprint in our lives for our people. In our collective action for IDA21 replenishment, we must ensure that women and girls, we must ensure that empowering women and girls is not optional. It is a condition for achieving inclusivity and sustainable development on our continent. We must allocate increased resources for gender mainstreaming in all our development programs. This includes improving women's access to productive resources, strengthening access to quality social services such as education, maternal and childhood, addressing gender-based violence, and advancing women's leadership and representation in decision-making platforms. Also, given our prevailing fragilities, increased resources for security, conflict prevention and management, peace building, access to justice and crisis, and emergency response, we serve as important pillars in building stronger and more peaceful continent. But furthermore, as our countries seek to leverage the fourth industrial revolution technologies, scaling up digitalization efforts across the continent requires enormous financial resources.